So let's pick it back up where we last left off. Before I continue, I wanted to go over a couple of settings that I forgot to mention last time. You want to go up to the window drop down and select world settings, and then once you have that up, go ahead and filter for lighting, and you're looking for the option for the checkbox that says force no pre-computed lighting, and you check that on. Also, if you want, you can go up to edit project settings, and under maps and modes, you can go ahead and select the map that you want the Unreal to launch with. By default, I went ahead and set it up to terrain demo map, which is what we are using to go over all these tools. And also last, where we left off, I realized that I forgot to turn the roughness into a parameter, so I did want to go over that really quick. So I'm going to go over to my terrain, and here's the roughness that we had. So I'm going to go ahead and convert that to a parameter and call that roughness. So it's set to 2, so let's go ahead and set that to 3. That's a 4 priority. Apply, save. So now if you go ahead and check on the use mask and you click that off, then you'll no longer be using the mask input, and you'll want to check on roughness and then replace that with whatever roughness map you're using. We'll go ahead and leave it like this. Save that. So I actually want to make a change to something really quick. I noticed that we have the roughness control inside the albedo controls, so that would make it mandatory to check that on anytime you wanted to control the roughness. So I actually don't want that. So in order to fix that, we're going to switch this from a 4 vector to a 3 vector, and we'll do that by holding the 3 on the keyboard and left mouse clicking, and then grab this and convert it to a parameter, and we're going to go ahead and call that ground albedo controls, and hold control on your keyboard, left mouse click the string, and then we're going to change the inputs over. And let's not forget to rename those. So let's go ahead and add that to the ground. Let's see, we had 32 as well, so we'll keep that there. And we'll saturation. Contrast. And we'll just put N-A for this last one. All right, so that fixes that issue there. And then for this one, we want to convert that to just a regular scalar value. So hold 1, left mouse click, a constant here, change that to 1. That input in. We can now delete this guy, and let's convert that to a parameter. Name that ground roughness. So let's check what we got there. Hit apply, save. Let's go check out our material instance. Okay, so now that's gone from the ground, but I forgot to put it in the group. Go in here and change that to ground, the group, apply and save. Oh, okay, so now that's over here. So now we got albedo control on here, and we got all our other stuff right down here. I'm just going to spot check one more time that I have all my priorities set how I like it. So we have albedo set to 1, change the mask to 2, 3 for the roughness, 4 for the normals. All right, so a quick edit here so I don't bore you guys. I'm going to speed through this part. Just so you know, all I'm doing is going through all my different parameters and setting the sort priority. So feel free to go through and do that for yourself. That way you can mess around and pick something that makes you happy, that makes sense for you, for your workflow. And try and get this right, because we're going to be duplicating this a few different times when we make the different layers. So see what feels right for you. So now I have my size to control everything. This mask in case I want to change the roughness map. Roughness strength, normal strength displacement. And that looks good to me. All right. So we got that change in there. Let's see what else we can do before we move on. I'm going to try and organize this a little bit more. Myself some space. Okie dokie. All right. So now that we're done with that part, let's go ahead and make a layered landscape blend, I believe it's called. Let's double check. Layer blend. There we go. Landscape layer blend. Okay. So click on that, and then on the left-hand side, we're gonna make one layer for now. But this is how we're gonna make all our different layers for the terrain. So this one is called ground. Enter, and if you want, you can just make all of them. Yeah, it's really not that big of a deal. So we know we have 4. Cliff, rocks, and bricks. Fantastic. And now let's make material attributes here. Because this is what this is gonna like to take here on the blend. So as you can tell, the inputs are the same, so we can swap these out. You just hold Control, left mouse click, swap out those inputs. Okay, and now we can plug that into the ground. And we'll have to convert this guy to use material attributes here on the left-hand side. And now we should be able to plug. All right, great. Organize this a little bit. All right, apply and save. Then we're going to select all these guys all the way up to the make material attributes. Hit C, and we're going to name that ground. That's size, so that text a little bit larger. Great. Nice and organized. If you wanted to at this point, you could duplicate this guy over, just copy paste it, and then start plugging those material attributes into each layer. The only thing you'll have to keep in mind if you want to do it that way is that you have to change the name on all these different parameters. Everything that you've turned into a parameter here, you have to go through and change the name from ground to cliff for the cliff texture, rocks for the rock texture, grass for the grass texture, or whatever texture it is you downloaded. Just pick that name and make sure that you grab all the parameters. Otherwise, if you are sharing parameter names, then you'll have some conflicting issues and it's not going to work. It's not going to work right for you. So if you wanted to, just, like I said, grab the entire group that we just made, paste it. Yep, that did not work. So that, copy, paste, just like that. And then you would rename this guy Cliff and go through, change this to Cliff. Then make another group called Cliff. And just go through all these guys. That. Might fast forward this section. And you can also change the color if you'd like. All right, so now we have a ground and a cliff. You can go through, apply and save. All right, so I went ahead and paused the video and duplicated my material stack that I have for cliff and made a rock one and a grass one. I also went through and renamed everything so that we don't have any conflicts on parameters. And I plugged it all into the different layers on the layer blend. You can check that out over here on the material instance. But I also went ahead and checked on all the different textures and swapped them out for the corresponding textures that I downloaded from Megascan. We have cliffs, so going to cliff. And here's my different textures from Megascans that I downloaded. I only have 4. These are my 4 layers that I built. All right. So once that part is done, we need to assign that to the landscape. So I've gone ahead and selected the landscape. You can see that by the yellow line. And over here on the details panel, I scroll down to landscape material, and you want to expand your content drawer, go to your material, and drag the material instance into the landscape material over here. And then once you do that, you'll notice that everything turned black on your landscape. You can go ahead and move this out of the way really quick. And that's because we have to go into landscape mode. And then under the paint section, we need to go ahead and assign a weighted blended layer to each one of those layers. So I'm going to start with the ground first because I want that to be everywhere. So hit that there and just hit save. I'm okay with the default location for that. And now I have that everywhere. And I'm going to do the same thing for cliff. Select the cliff layer, have the weighted blended layer, hit save. Then I'm going to move on to the rocks thing, save, and go on to grass and save. Okay, so now that we have that set up, you can at this point just paint based on the layer you have selected. So if I have cliff selected, you can go here to a section that looks like it should be cliffs. Go over here and paint my cliff right over here on the side. Then if I want grass, I go here to grass, paint some grass. And I can have some rocks and rocks in here. And so I went ahead and sped this section up as I was messing around with the different layers. All right, so right now it's currently not displacing anything. If I zoom in, that's because I need to make sure I either rebuild my nanite, or if you haven't built it at all yet, just select the enable nanite on the landscape and build data. Take a second. And let me scoot this out of the way. Now you can see that there's some displacement on here. All right, so if you don't want to spend the time painting your entire landscape like I was doing right now, you want to go ahead and export some type of map that you can use to apply those textures to your entire landscape, and that's what we did in World Creator. So let's go ahead and use those. So I'm going to first start by going to the ground layer, and I'm going to go ahead and fill the entire area with that. Then I'm going to select my, actually, as a matter of fact, let me just click this ground, and you can just paint on top of this to make sure all we have is ground everywhere. And now you want to go ahead and go up to the Manage tab, and under Layers here, uncheck your height map if you have that checked, and under Layers, go ahead and select the cliffs. I'm actually going to start with rocks first. 3 little dots, and I named it dirt when I was exporting, so let's make sure that your names are all correct here. But I'll select the dirt one. Okay. Then I'm going to select the cliffs ones next. And let's hit import for now. Seems to be layering pretty well. Then I'm going to hit the grass. I'm going to uncheck cliff and rocks. Select my grass and hit import. And there is my grass. Now, if you notice, for my grass layer, I get a warning that says the imported layer is not set to grayscale. So I did that on purpose so that way you guys can see what happens if you don't take your textures through Photoshop and convert them to grayscale. You'll get that warning. So if you want to get rid of that, just open up your map in Photoshop and go ahead and convert it to a grayscale. So you may have noticed that I was checking and unchecking things. That basically, all that is really doing is it's going to slap that texture on top of the entire landscape based on whatever you have selected and whatever that map is. So in this case, I grabbed the cliffs and the rocks, and then those two maps using those textures, those two maps were basically masking out those textures and applying it to the entire landscape. Now for, let's say this case scenario, I'm looking at this whole thing and I may want to swap out my setup currently and have the grass be my default, and then have where I currently have the grass be my ground. So this will be dirt paths and then everything else will be grass. So if I want to go ahead and do that, I'm going to go back to my paint, select grass, I'm going to hit fill layer. And now see what we can do here to get that. And go to manage, select my grass, and I should probably make a pure white texture here to go ahead and fix that. So let me go ahead and do that really quick. I'm going to pause here and cut right back to it. Okay, so coming back, I went ahead and made a pure white for the grass. So I'm going to load that up with only the grass selected, hit import. Now everything is set to that grass texture. Now I can go to my ground and select what I had as grass prior. Now, while I was in Photoshop, I went ahead and converted that to a grayscale, so that is now gone. And I'm going to uncheck grass, hit import. Now there's that texture over here. And then I'm going to grab my cliff and my rocks at the same time, hit import. And all that is mapped right on top. So that's how our terrain is looking. So you may want to spend some time now with your material instance and dial in the repeat and maybe some of the tints on here. I'm not going to bore you with all that, but that's why we set up all these different controls so you can get the look that you're going for. I might spend some time as well. Maybe you want to readjust some of your maps that you set up on World Creator and get something that you're happy with, or make some additional maps. And also, you can, on top of everything you have here, you can go ahead and still go back in. So let's say this ground texture that I have, I want to go ahead and paint that or feather that. Let's say you don't want to go into Photoshop to clean up this edging. You can, right here with the brush, scale that up, brush fall off, make that larger, and you can kind of go through and do some paint fixes right on top of it all. But that would take quite a bit of time to do it for the entire terrain. I just wanted to show you guys that these are some of the tools available to you as you're working on your landscape. So one additional thing that I also wanted to show is, in case that you have exported some static meshes from Blender that you want to use to extend your terrain beyond the horizon of what you have for your landscape. What you need to make sure when you import the FBX, if you've done it properly through Blender, is you go down to the normal imported method as you're importing it and change that to import normals and tangents and hit import all. All right, so now that that's in here, let's go ahead, navigate to World Creator. Here's the stamp mesh that we've imported. We can right click right from here and go up to Nanite and check on Nanite to convert it to a Nanite. You can double click that if you want to open it up. And there's enable Nanite support checked on. And go ahead and save that guy. And now right here from your content drawer, you can drag that in. And there we go. We have a massive static mesh. It's way, way, way in the back. Now that one's pretty large. Yeah, you know, you can go ahead and export some smaller ones out and extend it right from the edge of the landscape. But that's how you would import your static mesh. All right, we're going to go back into selection mode. That mesh, I'm actually going to drop that down a little bit to show you guys what I mean. All right, so yeah, just feel free to mess around with that. Again, I'm just doing this really quick with this specific static mesh. Hopefully you've spent some time to dial in the look of your static mesh and bring those in. Now to texture these guys, we can go ahead and make a brand new material, and you don't have to worry about using the landscape. It's just a regular standard material. And I may see if we cover that really quickly here. Let's go ahead and make a material. We'll call it material for stamp A. And then with that material here, let me close some of these guys out. So let's go ahead and copy a few of these textures here. So let's go ahead and copy this guy here. Out in here, base color, back, ambient, placement. All right, delete this guy, and we have our stamp A material. Now let's go back and do, I'm just gonna do grass. Let you guys do the rest. Okay. So instead of doing a layer landscape blend, what we want to do, if we want to layer the different, you know, different bits and pieces here, we would want to use a lerp. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit the L button on my keyboard, holding that down, left mouse click. Now I have a lerp node. So I will be bringing in the output of my diffuse into A, and then my output from my other texture will be going into B. And then I need to pull in my, let's see what I got here, grass, right? And ground. So I'm just gonna use one of these maps here for the example. So I'll use my grass one, bring that guy in, and plug that into the alpha. Now go ahead and assign it to my base color. I'll go ahead and hit apply, save that, and then let's go ahead and open our content drawer, go back to the material, select the map stamp A, right click, convert that to material instance, my stamp A, and then select your your mesh here. You can drag it right onto it actually. Let's see if that works out. Drill stamp A and drag that on. All right, there it goes. Now the only thing worth mentioning here is that stamp A doesn't have the same mask that I use, so you can tell it's not really masking it correctly where it needs to be. But that's how you would layer your textures in order to get that to show up on those stamps. So just make sure that the mask input that you're plugging into the alpha is the corresponding mask input for the stamp or the static mesh that you've imported, that you set up in Blender and through Nuke and all that in Well Creator. And then the same lerp operation, you want to do that for all your different layers, so albedo, mask, roughness, etc. And then for your material instance for the stamp, so click that guy, you'll already have all those parameters built for you from what we already set up for the landscape. So that's how you would do that. I'm not going to spend much time doing that now because the video is already running kind of long. But yeah, if you have any questions, go ahead and comment below or just message me and I'll help you out. All right, thanks, and that concludes this video.